Hello, everybody. We are going to start with the poem, The Body Politic by Hiromi Goto. I will be reading the poem and then after that, showing you certain images related to those lines. The first section is basically about a Japanese Canadian author. She's from Japan and she's trying to blend with the Canadian surroundings. That which you carry with you at all times and cannot be removed like a costume or eaten like a five-course dinner. The single fold in the eyelid that isn't there. Seeing from slanted eyes rather than seeing with a slant, though the latter is possible in conjunction with the former. My slant is different from yours, don't you see? Of course you do. You were the one who brought it up after all. Slant as opposed to straight. Honesty lying in the curve of an eye. If I glance sideways, I see more than you do, looking straight ahead. My vision is oblique. Oblique. I dress with culture. The distance from me to you. Every single morning, I eat my culture for breakfast and bag it for lunch, and it simmers in the slow cooker while I'm out at work. I eat culture for dinner and then I bathe in it, and it's my sleeping partner at night. So the first, initially, you can see that she's saying that she's a Japanese and that as a Japanese, she has certain culture, and that is the culture which she carries with her all throughout. That cannot change. That is by birth. So the face has certain contours. The dressing is certain peculiarities are there in the dressing. The way she eats, there are certain peculiarities. Her eyes are also slightly peculiar. And because of that, she makes fun saying that because of her eye and the slant in her eyes, she can see more things, and she's brutally honest. And then just not like you who can see only straight and things like that. And every day she's got that culture or that Japanese in her. So she walks Japanese, she talks Japanese, she behaves Japanese, and other people look upon her as a strange person. She tries to merge with the society, but it's not very easy. So this is what is coming in that point. That which you carry with you at all times and cannot be removed like a costume or eaten like a five-course dinner. So you can change your shirt, you can change your churidar and all that. But certain things you cannot change. You cannot change. My face cannot be changed. My eyes, my expression cannot be changed. If they are Japanese, if you feel that they are Japanese, they will be just like that. The single fold in the eyelid that is in the seeing from a slanted eyes rather than seeing with a slant, though the latter is possible in conjunction with the former. So this is basically a little bit play of words. My slant is different from yours, so my culture is different from yours. If you say that I have to be like you, it's not very easy. Slant as opposed to straight, honesty. But if you say that am I honest or not, yes, I am brutally honest. If I look sideways, I see more than you do. And if you think about those things, I am much more better than you. I mean, that's what she's saying. Anyway, that's we are not going in for any argument. My vision is oblique. You see that oblique is shown there in that particular manner. I dress culture every single morning. I eat my culture for breakfast. I bag it for lunch, and it simmers in a slow cooker while I'm out at work. Everywhere you see, immediately you will know. When you see me, you'll know that I am a Japanese. So I walk with that culture. I talk in that culture. Maybe my accent of English may be slightly different from your English, from the Canadian English. It's like a slow cooker where anytime you see me, I am that way. I eat culture for dinner, then I bathe in it. Everywhere you can see culture within me. Anywhere I stand out as a Japanese. And I'm trying my best to be a Japanese. I'm trying to be my best to be a Canadian, but that is not possible. But at least please see me as a Japanese Canadian. This is what she's trying to say that. And it's my sleeping partner at night. So the single fold in your eyelid that isn't there. So the Japanese eyes are supposed to be slightly different from others. So that is, shown here. Of course, I'm trying my best not to take real pictures. Instead of that, certain drawings is what I've taken. This is a particular Japanese themed slide that I have taken. So you can see the single fold in the eyelid that isn't there. My slant is different from yours. My vision is oblique. See, I see things in a different way. You see things in another way. So my slant, the way I walk, is slightly different from your walk. My talk is slightly different from yours. But then don't isolate me. I'm trying my best to be a Canadian. I dress with culture every single morning. So every time I walk, every time I talk, there's a little bit of that culture within me. Just like you see a Malayali, if we go, let's say, to another place, we carry our culture with us. Certain things, or let's say we are an Indian, let's say we are all Indians, and we go to a country abroad. When we say hello, we usually do a namaste instead of extending our hands. So like this, see, we have certain culture. When a Japanese greets you, they bow down straight until the earth. So that's a culture which they carry with them. Their tea drinking ceremony is a long ceremony. So I walk, I talk, I bathe, I eat, I simmer, everything in Japanese. I dress with culture. I eat culture for breakfast. I bag it for lunch. That is just like I carry a bag with me. When you go to a McDonald's or when you go or to pizza, you take a takeaway. Takeaway means in a bag. The same way, everywhere I've got this culture with me. I eat culture for dinner. I bathe in it. I take a bath also in culture. I have culture for dinner and everything. Even my sleeping partner at night, it sleeps with me. My culture sleeps with me. So I am very basically a Japanese person, but at the same time, I am trying my best to acculture myself with Canada. So please treat me in that way. Some people are confused, perplexed, downright angry with my culture fixation. You only make it more obvious by pointing it yourself, they say. Being so politically correct and all that. We are talking about art here. Leave your politics at home. I try scraping the hue of my skin with an X-Acto knife. I try sliding a razor blade to slice folds into my eyelids. It is painful. And now I am deformed as well as colored. A friend of mine asked me if I always thought of myself as a colored person. Is white a color? And do you think of yourself as white? I asked. Or do you think of yourself as normal? On the vertical line, the distance between me and you, the distance from me to you. If I don't address my color, it is addressed for me in ways I find intolerable. People want me to dress up in kimonos and garter belts. They want to hear about Zen and Buddhism and ritual, harikari. They want to squeal over tiny slices of raw fish and finish off with exotic oriental sex, whatever that is. I wasn't dressed in your TV costume. Let us stand together naked and see who blushes first. So now you see, you can find that she is trying to blend with the Canadian society. At the same time, she still is different. When you see her from a distance, immediately you can understand that she is a Japanese and not a Canadian. So we are going to have that cross-culturation here. Look at this. Some people are confused, perplexed, downright angry with my culture fixation. And when they see me, immediately they think, oh, this is Japanese. Now, when people ask me also, who are you? You say, I'm a Japanese Canadian. Japanese Canadian. Oh, so you're from Japan, is it? You don't say I'm a Canadian. Naturally, she cannot say that because she's not from Canada itself. She's, originally from Japan. Maybe her parents have come from Japan. So by birth, she's a Canadian maybe, but at the same time, her parents are Japanese, and that shows in her face, that shows in her culture, that shows in the way she talks, that shows in her dress, and so on, so on and so forth. Okay, what about politics? Politics. Let's not talk about politics, because if we talk about politics, it will be big, because Japanese, many of them came to Canada as prisoners. Let's not talk about that. Let's talk about art. Personally, sometimes I feel very sad. I have tried to commit suicide even. I try scraping the hue of my skin. I try to make myself as bright as the Canadians, as white as the whites. With an X-Acto knife, I try sliding a razor blade to slice the folds into my eyelids. So I don't have folds in my eyelids. So I try to, scratch them so that I can also get a fold like the others. It is painful. And now I am deformed as well. What to do? Now I am also as deformed as them. So there is one picture like this, you see. You can see that deformation into the eyes. I mean, these are all, she's just writing poetry. These are not, wholly real, but at least you can see that she's trying her best to make us understand about these things. Colored. A friend of mine asked me if I thought of myself as a colored person. Is white a color? And do you think of yourself as white? I asked. Oh, you're a colored person. A white person asked. I asked back. You are also a color, isn't it? Your color is white. Aren't you colored? There is no answer. Or do you think yourself as normal? അല്ലെങ്കിൽ white or standard? Is that where we should start our standards? White. Then there is black, then Asian, brown, and things like that. Should we do it that way? Or shall we say brown is the standard? Indians are we should say brown is the standard. And shall we call you a colored person? If I don't address my color, it is addressed to me, for me, in ways I find intolerable. I find certain things which I am not, I'm not able to take. This happens everywhere. For example, when I was a teacher in Oman, generally you have what you call a preference for native speakers. Native speakers would be those people who speak English natively. That is, they were born with English in their mouth. We were actually, our first language may be Malayalam or Hindi or whatever, and we have learned English. But maybe in certain areas, when we were called for an interview, they did not even take me, even though I had a PhD and I had more qualifications than the other person who was, a native. That person was taken primarily because that person is, termed native and has white complexion. Even if I try to scrape off my skin and try to make myself white, I am not white, because in my passport I am an Indian and my face shows that I am an Indian. Maybe if I talk also, I've got certain hints of Malayalam or Hindi or other Indian regional languages coming in. So naturally, they do not want me in a higher post. They would take. Whereas in India, when I'm here, I can take any post I want. I can take the highest post, primarily because I am a person of this country. So this happens everywhere, and this is happening to Hiromi Goto also. She is a Japanese. She has gone to Canada as an immigrant, and she is a Japanese Canadian now. She's a citizen of Canada, but still, she still has that mark of her through her face, through her talk, through her dressing, through her customs. People want to dress me up in kimonos and garter belts. So this is the traditional kimono, that. So you see, and you can see the pink flower also. Of course, we've got this jacarandas and all nowadays everywhere, but this is generally a flower associated with Japan. And then they want to hear about Zen and Buddhism. So Zen is this tranquility, peace and tranquility, and Buddha is generally referred to as a person with peace. Then they also want to talk about harakiri, harakiri and seppuku. These are supposed to be methods of capital punishment for the samurai soldiers. So samurai soldiers, instead of being beheaded by the common executioner, what they do is they try to kill themselves. So that particular, oh, you're a Japanese, so immediately people will say, oh, we've heard about harakiri. Tell me about that. Just like, suppose they meet you abroad. So they say, oh, you're from Kerala. Oh, yes, Kerala, God's own country. Okay, so tell us about Onam. Just like that. So just like that, they want to when they meet her, they want to understand more about harakiri. They want to understand about the Zen way of the meditation. They want to understand how Japanese dress in their kimonos and things like that. And they also want to know about, they want to squeal over tiny slices of raw fish, sushi. You must have had sushi nowadays. It is actually raw fish, and sashimi. Sashimi is the raw fish actually. So, do we eat raw fish? Certain parts of India we do, but generally we cook it. But the Japanese culture is such that the sushi and sashimi are supposed to be very important dishes for them. Nowadays, it is coming across in India also. So when you see a Japanese person, immediately you say, "Oh, sushi! I love sushi," and you want to know more about it. Then also, it seems that I've stopped the. The Oriental sex is also something which they have different methods. So that also people want to learn about it. I wasn't dressed in your TV costume. Let's stand together naked and see who blushes first. Now, why don't you do one thing? Let us both undress each other. A Japanese, a Canadian, Indian. Let us all undress each other. Let's completely undress and let us stand. And let's see whether there is any difference. Maybe the color, there would be a difference. Otherwise, there is no difference at all. If a human body, whatever parts the human body has, a male has, a female has, the same thing a Canadian has, a Japanese has, an Indian has, an African has. There is nothing different. So we are actually the same. Our color may be slightly different. That's all. Everything else, we are one. This is what she is addressing to us in that section. Now we'll go to the third section, the final section. And I say, oh, I do a little of writing. I do a little writing. Do you write poetry too? Someone will ask. And I say, yeah, a little bit. Oh, please make a haiku for us. We love to hear a haiku from you. I don't. Oh, come on, don't be shy. You Japanese are so clever with haiku. Sure, why not? When I was here, when I speak English, there is something I need to know. When I speak English, I make up words like I like more than the ones I learned. Once more, when I speak English, I make up words I like more than the ones I learned. Sure, I would like to talk about the way the prairie curves into the mountains, the feel of cool mud squeezing between toes, and the shriek of children catching frogs for the first time in their lives. I would love to talk about the way the moonlight looked on bare skin, the moisture of breath hanging in the air above our faces, the sweet kiss lingering in the fold of my elbow for days. I could talk of newborn foals and singing birds and strangers, hugging strangers. Sure, why not? But choice is a position of privilege that needs to be addressed. I can never unzip my skin and step into another. I am happy with my color, and someone paints it out, it clashes with my costume. I hold my culture in my hands and form in my own so that no one can shape the way it lies upon my body. I'm a happy person mostly. I smile a lot. My health, my body, my politic, a slant, a skin, a slice of. It's only that I want someone to know me by my name, Hiromi Goto. So once again, I'll just explain this so that people ask me what do I do. So whenever anybody meets me in the street, immediately they ask me, what is your job? Just like we casually ask people when we meet them for the first time, we'll first of all we'll ask, we'll ask about the climate and all that. Then gradually we'll say, what are you doing? Where are you working and things like that. So the same way, what do you do for a living? Oh, she says, oh, I do a little bit of writing. I am a author. I'm a poet. Uh-huh. Very good. Then since you're a Japanese, you will be definitely writing haiku. What is haiku? So haiku has a particular metrical style. So this is a haiku. So haiku is a Japanese poem of 17 syllables in 3 lines of 5, 7, and 5. So 5 plus 7 is 12. 12 plus 5 is 17. So a haiku has 17 syllables, and it traditionally evokes images of the natural world. Now look at the poem. Let us see the haiku first. When I speak English, 5 syllables. When I speak English, I'll just show you. When I speak English. Next one. I make up words I like more. 7 syllables. Than the ones I learned. 5 syllables. So a haiku has 17 syllables. Let's go to the poem and see how she, as a Japanese Canadian, finds it difficult to make a haiku. Okay. So they tell her, why don't you make a haiku? Oh, don't be shy. You Japanese, you are so clever with haiku. Sure, why not? Anashari, I'm going to make a haiku. She's going to start. Look at how she starts. When I was here, the Kritunilla. When I speak English, Kritunilla, there is something I need to Kritunilla. So see, because she's now a Canadian, she's trying to be a Canadian, and because she's really not Japanese, she's a Japanese Canadian, and she's a Canadian by birth, but she's not. But people looking at her face says that she's a Japanese. Now she writes a haiku. When I speak English, I make up words I like more than the ones I learned. This is a haiku. So initially she is not able to get the haiku. Adinishesham, she gets the haiku. See, this is her. She is not a original Japanese. That's why. Sure, I would love to talk about mountains. I would love to. Being a Canadian, I would love to talk more about this place. I would love to talk more about, about the prairies, the mountains, ranges. These are things that I would like to talk about. Prairies are, these empty places. In Canada, you have lots of prairies and then mountains. So I would love to talk about these things. The how the prairie curves into the mountains. Then I would like to talk about the feel of cool mud between toes. This is what I would love to talk about. I would love to talk about children catching frogs for the first time. Catching frogs for the first time in their lives. The same way, I would love to talk about the way the moonlight feels on a bare skin. Or I would like to talk about how moisture is, hangs in the air and becomes water. These are things that I would like to talk about. Or I would like to talk about newborn foals and singing birds and strangers, hugging strangers. Sure, why not? I like to talk about these things. And finally, she's going to say, I can never unzip my skin and step into another. All these things, whatever you say, I cannot do that. I can never, ever be a Canadian. Maybe a Japanese Canadian, maybe, but nothing more than that. That's the maximum I'll be able to. So I would only be able to try my best to become a, Japanese Canadian, and I would never be able to throw away all what I have. I cannot unlearn everything. I can never unzip my skin and step into another. I am happy with my color until someone points it out, it clashes with my costume. I am happy with whatever I do. I hold my culture in my hand and form it in my own so that no one else can shape the way it lies upon my body. Whatever it is, deep inside me, I am a Japanese. I try to become a Canadian. I try my best to the maximum. But way deep inside, I am still a Japanese. And finally, she ends it with, I am a happy person. I smile a lot, My health, my body, my politic. A slant, a skin, a slice of, there may be a little bit of Canadian in me, but generally, I don't want to be known as a Japanese Canadian. I want to be known by one thing. What is your name? Hiromi Goto. Where are you coming from? Please don't ask. I don't want such questions. I want to be known as an individual. I want to be known as an author. I want to be known by the lines I write. And this is what Hiromi Goto talks to us about in this poem, The Body Politic. Thank you very much.